Welcome to Lofty Pursuits and Public Displays of Confection in Tallahassee, Florida. This is Greg, and I want to tell you, it always makes me feel good when a project comes to fruition. We put a lot of work into this project. These are our chocolate fruit drops, and this is a raspberry chocolate fruit drop. While it's more fudge-like than chocolate, the results are spectacular since I feel most hard candies and chocolate aren't chocolate enough. The raspberry flavor was in the pot when we poured it, and the food coloring gets dripped in and stirred in, and the water boils out when it hits the hot sugar, turning to steam. And this gets the water out of the candy because we can't have much, if any, water in the candy, or the candy will be sticky. This candy will be colored primarily brown by the actual cocoa powder we're putting in, so we're just adding a little pink here so we can identify the flavor in the assortment, and we're putting it in a part of the candy we're not going to add cocoa to. So as we cut the pink out of the candy and we let the colors drip so that the temperature can equalize, we're going to think here about why hard candy doesn't normally taste like chocolate. That's because chocolate is not just a flavor. It's also a texture. They call it mouthfeel or umami. And what it means is cocoa butter, the actual texture of it, affects the flavor or your sensation of the flavor. So we're going to solve this problem by actually using cocoa in the hard candy. And this is a bit difficult because cocoa is oil-based and the candy is water-based. And we've got to sort of make an emulsion out of them. But we're making an emulsion and trapping it in hard candy. We're not making it when it's liquid, we're making it when it's semi-solid. And we're doing it like one would fold a strudel or butter into a strudel. We're working with two distinct flavors, and the raspberry needs citric acid to pull out the raspberry flavor, so we're adding it here, and that's what those white crystals are. And the cocoa powder then gets added, and it gets added with some difficulty. Originally it made quite a mess, but we're getting better at that now. We're only making a little mess. While we know these candies in future months are going to be great for Easter and Valentine's Day and other traditionally chocolate holidays, we're actually making this specifically for Sweet Day, a little obscure holiday. Sweet Day happens on January 14th. It's a month before Valentine's Day, but I'm not sure that there's any connection with Valentine's Day. I haven't quite figured out exactly what culture this comes out of. But on Sweet Day, the tradition has it that on the darkest days of winter, a small treat, a sweet or a cookie or something, is given to a family member, a child, someone they love, to brighten their day in the coldest, darkest parts of the winter. The story goes that on the day before, I guess that would be the 13th, the night before, a Miska, a little pink bear, delivers the treats, and he delivers it in his yellow Carter wagon, and he comes around to everyone just bringing cheer. It's a holiday just of fun and happiness, and I kind of like it, and it's based around sweets, so of course I like it. So on the table we mostly work the cocoa powder in, but there are still pockets of it and air pockets that are going to tear if I'm not careful. So I'm taking it to the hook, not so much to pull it like I do to make candy white, but more to fold it in and to blend the chocolate that much better, because we really want the cocoa powder in here. If you look at the ingredients, you'll realize that this isn't a chocolate, this is technically a chocolate hard caramel. But that also makes this a fairly unique in confectionery circles, and it tastes amazing. We want to color code the candy because this is going to be an assortment. It'll have chocolate orange, chocolate raspberry, chocolate blueberry, chocolate cherry, and we want to know what colors they're going to be. So the raspberry is pink, pomegranate will be red, blueberry will be blue, black cherry will be black, and orange will be orange. And you'll be able to tell by the color what it is, but I've got to make the stripes. And I need one stripe to show up on each of the squares of candy we're going to make. And we're going to be doing that by making a lot of stripes. You see, there are 5 rows of squares, And if I make 12 stripes, there's good odds that there'll be at least one stripe on each side of each piece of candy. And I make the stripes by making one stripe and pulling it out and turning it into 4 stripes, and then pulling it out and turning it into 3 more sets of 4 stripes. If you'll notice, I have a little bit of pink left, and if you watch carefully at the end, you'll see that I won't waste it. I'll hide it in the middle and it'll be just as yummy in the final candy. This was the first batch that I sort of tested proportions, and in each subsequent batch, the color was made in a precise amount. If you would like to try this candy or any of our others, please mosey over to our website, www.pd.net. You can order this candy and all of our others there. You can also click on the podcast button on the top and listen to our podcast. We try to put our podcasts out every Tuesday and our videos here out every Thursday. And let me thank our Patreon supporters for making this podcast possible, as well as for allowing us to make these great videos. I'm really not sure how popular Sweet Day is, but please join our family tradition on January 14th with your own Sweet Day, and make somebody's life a little happier on a dark day in the winter. You may have seen us use this technique for candy canes, but once we make our wrap with the stripes, we taper it off, and we cut off the end, but not to waste the end. We work it into the back, where we can sort of hide it in the middle with that pink that we also hid in the middle. It's all delicious candy, and none of it's going to waste. I've always thought sticking candy in the center like this is sort of like making a hard candy turducken. But one that tastes a bit sweeter, I guess. Unlike most of our drops, we put this candy on our batch roller to keep it spinning because we want to keep the stripes visible. We don't want them going flat. So it's spinning here, but unlike making a rope like I do with image candy, I'm just going to cut off a big hunk with stripes and feed it through the batch roller. The die for the batch roller we're using today makes about 1/2-inch squares, and it was made in the late 1800s by a firm called Thomas Mills. This is the Victorian part of the Victorian candy we make. And yes, we're working on equipment that are well in excess of 100 years old. That batch roller is actually one of our newer pieces of equipment. It may only be 110 years old. If you're interested, there'll be a link in the description for an alternate version of this video with a more dramatic soundtrack I made for fun. Please check it out. If you like this video, please subscribe to us here on YouTube and ring the notification bell. If you are subscribed, you may also want to check to see if your notification bell is selected. YouTube's getting weird about showing videos to people who don't have this notification on. I want to thank all of our viewers out there who gave us feedback from the prototypes of this candy. We gave out free samples on Black Friday for people who used the proper coupon code, so they could get an advanced taste of this. We actually sent out 3 versions of the candy, and by the feedback we got, we tweaked our flavors, and I think it's really spectacular now. And we want to thank you for your input. This is the first time we tried to get mass input on a flavor, and it worked. Not only does the cocoa make the candy taste interesting, it also makes it a little bit more delicate. It's harder to get through the press, and it's easier to break into pieces. It's actually very hard to lift as an entire unit. But as we break some of it by lifting and dropping, you can see why this type of candy is known as drops. We're going to just use our spatula to scrape up the rest and give you a spatula eye view on the candy breaking up process. And there we have our finished raspberry chocolate drop with its pink stripe. And it's going to go join its friends in the fruit drop assortment of chocolate fruit drops. Thank you for watching. You can get these candies at our website, www.pd.net. You can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And if you're ever in Tallahassee, we're right off the I-10 exit of Thomasville Road in Tallahassee. You can visit us for yourself, and if you're lucky, you can catch us making hard candy. We don't make it every day, but we make it a lot of days, and we serve brunch from 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. and ice cream from noon until 10. Thank you for watching.